everybody, and happy Good Friday to you all. I hope it's a nice day where you are. Feel free to say hello in the comments and chime in. Let us know where you're watching us from and what the weather is like in your neck of the world. This is a very sunny, bright blue sky day and no snow, so we're doing well. So welcome to the Dancing Dragonflies knit-along. My name is Michelle, and I'm going to lead you through, if you care to follow along, 4 weeks, which is the whole month of April, in creating a beautiful pair of knitted mittens. I'll bring the color page close to the camera so you can see what we're trying to create. So, Dancing Dragonflies. So this is an exciting day. It's our cast on day. I hope none of you have jumped the gun and already cast on your stitches, because there are some tech tips to go through, helpful pointers and hints, and there's also an alternate cast on method. So I'll be here every Friday, 3 p.m. live during the month of April, and I will be under my cozy spring arbor, feeling very warm and cozy, and I will be guiding you through the process and posting tips and tutorials on our event page, which you'll find on Facebook, and hopefully having a little question and answer with the designer of the mitten pattern. That's Sarah Kelly, and she is a Canadian designer who lives in St. Albert, Alberta. So if you're watching today, Sarah, hi and welcome. This pattern really took off for Sarah. I had found it when she was still in the testing stage. I just saw the image of them and I said, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And I happened to have a friend who loves dragonflies, so I sent the picture to her and she said, oh my gosh, I love it, I want to knit them. And then I sent the picture to another friend and she wanted to knit them, and then I said I want to knit them too, so that was 3 of us. So that's enough to start a knit along. So that's how the whole idea evolved for our spring knit along. Even though mittens are a little bit out of season for us right now in Muskoka, maybe not today, I could have used mittens. They're just kind of a welcoming vibe for the spring with the dragonflies. And as a knitter, you probably know it's always wise to knit 1 or 2 seasons ahead. Has anyone wound their yarns yet? I've seen a few pictures posted on our event page, and the colors are gorgeous. I have knit just the cuff to get a head start, so I have something to show you. I'm going to bring that up closer to the camera. So I've done the Latvian braid twice and the cuff pattern. Hi Rhonda, hi Judy, hi Shelley, thanks for joining us. So what I'll do today, I'm going to go through the tech tips to get you started, talk about tension and yarn, and I won't go too far into the mitten details because it's a 4-week process, so really this week you're trying to get your stitches cast on, hopefully do your tension swatch and figure out what size needles you should be using. The tension is measured over the pattern, so that makes a big difference. You cannot get the same tension measurement if you are knitting a swatch with just the main color in stocking stitch. You have to have the Fair Owl pattern, because the Fair Owl pattern pulls in a lot more than regular stocking stitch. So that would be the true measurement if you're working over a swatch with part of the charted pattern. I'm using the 2.5 millimeter needles as suggested. I find I can just adjust my tension to get the gauge. But if you know you are a loose knitter, you're much better off to go down to 2.25 or even a 2 millimeter. Hi Gwyneth. Because it would be very disappointing to put all the work and effort into a pair of mittens, or at least one mitten, and then find out they're much too wide. Chances are you're not going to knit them too tight. There's more risk of you knitting them too loose. Now the measurements, it's a one size pattern, which many mitten patterns are. The measurement for the width, unstretched around the hand, is 8 1/4 inches or 21 centimeters. So you can measure your hand and just see how that feels for comfort. There should be a little bit of extra room because remember it's a stranded project and that creates a double thickness around your hand. So there has to be a little bit of extra give for the thickness. The length, you can add a little bit in the cuff section. I'll go into detail about that. If your hand is quite long, mine is quite long, and if you like a longer wrist coverage so you can tuck it into a coat cuff, then we'll talk about that too. Because traditionally the pattern is designed like the European or Latvian style mitts. So it's more of a square cuff, not a tight cuff, and then it has the pointed top with the decreases. So also you should note too that if you're working with merino, the yarn that we've chosen for the knit along is the Riverside Studio yarn. This one is a combination of merino, cashmere, and nylon, hand dyed in Canada. Gorgeous. We've sold out a lot of the colors. I still have what you see on the table left. If you're thinking of joining the knit along, it's not too late. The other yarn that we're substituting is the Malabrigo sock, which is a pure merino, and that has some really nice dragonfly colors too. I'm using the one called Indicita as my contrast, put together with the black. In the Malabrigo we have black as the main, or a soot, which is a dark charcoal, and then we have all the pretty shades here. They're posted in the event page and you can see all the different combos numbered 1 to 16. So you need a main color and a contrast color, 100 grams each, fingering weight yarn. So I find with the pure merino, it's very bouncy, which is great, but I do have to knit a little firmer with my tension control because the merino can get away from you. It can sort of bounce and loosen up as you tighten up your stitches. And I'm using Zing, which are aluminum needles, stainless steel tips. Now the other thing about your tension you have to take into consideration is that if you're knitting with wooden needles for the tension swatch, you may find you can knit tighter with wooden needles and you may knit looser with metal or aluminum needles. I do knit a bit looser with the aluminum needles, so for that reason I have to be careful to tighten up my tension, and I just automatically knit a bit tighter with the wooden ones. The wooden ones give you a bit more grip, they're not as slippery. And other tools that you need are 4 stitch markers, one which will be your beginning of round marker, 3 that will be ring markers to sit on your needle, and they will be placed higher up after the cuff, so you don't need them right away, and they are to designate the size of the mitten to keep you on track. Tapestry needle for sewing in your ends, and a very small stitch holder, tiny one the size of a thumb, or some waste yarn for the thumb opening. We'll get to that maybe next week. And tools for chart reading. Sarah has put together a gorgeous chart which takes up a full page. So whatever tools you find most helpful for reading your chart to keep your stitch placement. I like the sticky tabs, which act like a highlighter. And you can just lift it every time you move up a row it comes off, it doesn't leave any marks on the page, and you can put it up to the next row. I can see through it and see the stitches without lifting it up. It's opaque. So that is my favorite chart minder or reader. Those you can pick up at Staples or any sort of dollar store. They come in a pack of about 200. You can place them side to side across the round if you like, or just one on the page. The other method of keeping track of what row you're on is the Knitter's Pride magnetic pattern holders. They come with powerful magnets to hold the chart, and then a magnetic ruler which you will just slide up one round at a time. And it will fold up like a little booklet. They come in the smaller size, which I've just shown you, and the full size. So the full size is for those of you who don't want to fold your chart in half, and the smaller one is for somebody who is on the go and doesn't want to cart around a big pattern reader. But yes, you do have to fold your pattern in half to fit it on the board. So we've had a really good turnout to this knit along. I'm so pleased. Just never know, picking a pattern, if it will be everybody's preference. Hi Leslie, hi Debbie, happy Good Friday to you. Hi Shelley, hi Diane. Okay, so, oh, and the most important thing you'll need after your magnetic board or your pattern chart reader is patience and a quiet place where you can sit and knit without interruption. There's nothing worse than having a row that you're working on, and then people talking to you, and all of a sudden your mind has been distracted and you've jumped up to the next row. So try to find a quiet place. Today it's very quiet in here, so I might get more knitting done than usual. And I have posted the two links in the event page this morning to the methods that are described in the pattern. So these are suggested by Sarah, the designer. One is the 2-color cast on, which creates that pretty edge. And the other link is to the Latvian braid. So this is the full Latvian braid at the top of the cuff. So you'll find those two links in the event page, but I have done an alternate cast on, so I'm going to explain that to you. It is creating a lining for inside the mitten. So for some of you who feel that you get a cold draft up inside your mitten because it's not a very tight cuff, I have knit a rib section before I started the actual mitten. So I will give you all the details about that, and then the choice is yours if you'd like to do this optional idea or just carry on with the pattern as it's written. So I'm going to give you a close-up now. Well, first of all, these are my colors in Decida, the blues and the greens. In the Malabrigo sock, that's the contrast color, and the black. Okay, so what I did is I cast on the same number of stitches if you choose to do the ribbed cuff. So I've cast on the same number of stitches as you would for the actual mitten. And when you look at it, you can't even tell that there is a liner. Can you? I can. And all I did was work on the same needle size, 2.5, 20 rounds, knit 1, purl 1, ribbing. So that's going to make my liner a little bit snug. And if I choose, I can also wear the liner out as a longer cuff and tuck it under my sleeve of my jacket. So you've got two options. You can wear the cuff out or tuck it in under the decorative cuff. So I did 20 rounds, knit 1, purl 1 before I started. So that eliminates the need for the 2 color cast on. And instead I just went straight into Sarah's instruction for the braided rounds, and I worked round 1 and 2 exactly as she asks you to do at the top of the cuff. So it's a very simple option to add. And there you can see another tech tip that I want to pass on to you is when you're doing the Latvian braid or the 2 color cast on, please remember to keep your stitches a little looser. You want that to be a prominent feature. You want to really pop and look 3-dimensional. So if you're snugging up each stitch as you do it, then you're not going to get the same effect. Those little slanted bars are going to be quite pinched together and hidden. So now the big question is, how many of you have cast on and now wish you had done the ribbed liner? Let's see. Shelley has bought the pattern. Oh, she wants an electronic copy to use with her iPad. Okay, Shelley. Hi to Janet in Thunder Bay. And sounds like Diane likes the liner. It wasn't actually my idea. One of our knitters had started her mitten a week ago, and she told me that she was going to do the cuff as a liner because she knits a lot of Latvian mitts, so she has that experience. And I said, I think I like that idea, and I think that the knit-alongers would like the option too. And believe it or not, this particular knitter has finished the Dragonfly Mittens, and she called me today and she said, would you like them to show on the video today? And I said, oh my gosh, number one, I am so stunned and amazed that you finished them that quickly. And number two, yes, I would love to have them. So next week, I will show you her finished mittens, and I think it'll be great to have the color inspiration and then see what else she's done. She's known to do her own changes in patterns. Okay, so I'm going to post the tips in the event page to let you know the changes I've done to create the liner. You have plenty of yarn, so it's not going to cause any problems. The other tech tip to mention is when you're starting the Latvian braid section, please be very conscious to have your 2 colors tangle free. Even if you have 1 or 2 tangles in the balls, it's going to get much worse. When you work 1 round of the Latvian braid, you're constantly bringing the yarn under in the same direction. So 1 color is always going under, and then the second color is always going under. So at the end of the round, it's completely twisted up, but you have to remember to be patient because the next round, each time it goes over and it will untwist itself. I also found that halfway around in the Latvian braid, I was getting very impatient with the twist. It was so tangled and twisted. So there's a simple remedy. You just hold the yarn up in the air about 1 to 2 feet, and your mitten will untwist itself, just like that. And that will get you around the rest of the round without feeling frustrated. The Latvian braid is a beautiful accent to work on the mitten, but it does take patience. Every stitch is very slow and precise. The other way you can lengthen your cuff in the decorative section, if you want to add maybe a couple more rounds of the main color, in the pattern Sarah has 2 rounds of the main color, which is my black, between the bottom braid and the stranded pattern, and then she throws in 2 more rounds of just the main color before the lapwing braid for the second part. So if you wanted to add a little bit of length there, you could put in maybe 2 more rounds in the bottom section, 2 more rounds in the top section of the cuff. I wouldn't add too much of the main color because that's going to throw off the look of the pattern. The pattern is very much stranded, so you don't want to have too much plain knitting. But remember, if you're adding 2 rounds at the bottom, 2 rounds at the top of the cuff, you have to compensate if you're doing the liner by adding another 4 rounds. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Another tip is when you're starting the braided section, you'll see that it doesn't quite look, waiting for it to focus, it doesn't quite look like it meets at the beginning. So please don't sew in your end of your contrast color until we go over that in another video this month. There is a way to sort of connect the dots, so to speak, so that it looks like it's on the same level. A little bit of an invisible stitch over top, just to make it look perfect. Because generally knitters are perfectionists, we can't help it. It's not a fault in the pattern, that's just something that happens naturally. Whenever you're knitting in the round, there always is a little step up. In one of the links that I posted today on the events page, the instructor will go over doing the lapwing braid in a jogless fashion, so that would create a straight connection as well. So you've got 2 choices to solve that little issue. If it bothers you, if it doesn't bother you, don't worry about it. And then the last tech tip that I can give you this week is about ladders. If you are a sock knitter on DPNs, you know sometimes you get that unsightly ladder, which is a space between one needle to the next. Some people don't get it. I tend to get it, even though, you know, I'm conscious of it and I've knit for many decades, but I still do get it once in a while. If anyone is knitting with the magic loop method for the mittens, then you don't have to worry about it. But it's a simple trick to get rid of the ladders. So when you've cast on your stitches, you have a certain number of stitches on each needle, either in the triangle format or the European style, which is the 4 needles, and you're knitting with the 5th one. So as you're knitting around, always knit 1 extra stitch onto your current needle, in pattern of course. So at the end of every needle, I would knit 1 extra stitch off the next needle. That rotates the sequence so that there's no constant ladder forming. Something you can do on any project that calls for DPNs, not just mittens, hats, socks, sleeves, collars, you name it. So I think those are all the tech tips I wanted to give you today to get you started. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I will post them again in the event section, and quite a few have asked if they cannot watch the live video at 3 p.m. each Friday, will it air later? Yes, it does air just automatically on Facebook. It will show up on the main page of Muskoka Yarn Connection, and I always repost it into our event page, and then if you're watching this 3 months from now, you'll find it in the video section, along with all our videos. Hi Selena, are you taking part in our Dancing Dragonflies? Shelley has not started, yay. Debbie has not started, yay. And Leslie has not started. So I think a lot of you are going to opt for this cuff liner. Oh, thanks, Judy. Shelley's asking, can we do the mitts on a 9-inch circular? That's a very good question, Shelley, because as I was working on my cuff last night, I thought, you know what, I'm going to switch to the 9-inch circular from the cuff up. I don't think it will change my tension at this point because the cuff section is bordered by the Latvian braid, so it's a separate entity. And I'm just going to see if I like the 9-inch circular better for this project. So I'll report back in a day or two in the event page. I'll let you know if I like it better. And if you want to try it, Shelley, maybe you can report back and let us know if you like it. The problem with the 9-inch circular needles is that the tip, the actual needle part, is very small, and the cord, of course, has to be the majority of the circumference or you won't be able to close your circle. So not everybody loves 9-inch circulars. I've used them a few times for socks, and I find after a while my hands cramp up and I can't knit as fast as I can on the DPN. So I'm going to try it and I will report exactly what I think about them for the mittens. Because I'm using the merino, that gives me more elasticity and bounce too over some of our traditional sock yarns, so that might be a little bit easier to stretch and manipulate the stitches on the 9-inch circular. Hi Lee, happy Easter, happy Good Friday. You're waiting for your tips, so you'll watch the video later. Okay, so yeah, there's no problem with starting later. I mean, if you want to join the knit along and you've just learned about it today, feel free to message or call the shop and I can mail out orders or arrange curbside pickup. It's just fun to cast on today, but certain people will cast on, you know, middle of next week or end of next week. It's not a project that really has a deadline. So next I'm going to give you some fun facts about dragonflies, because most of us who are participating in the knit along probably love dragonflies more than we love knitting mittens. Did you know that there are more than 5,000 species of dragonflies around the world? I didn't. I would have guessed maybe 500. 5,000 is a lot. They have 6 legs, which I knew, but have never adapted to walking well. So they're always going to be a flying creature. They can fly straight up and down, they can hover like a helicopter, and they can fly backwards and reach a speed of over 30 miles per hour. Now that I found amazing. I would never have imagined a dragonfly could fly that fast, but it would come in handy when they're trying to escape their predators. So, I think now we'll head on over to the incentive ballot question. So if you've joined any of our regular knit-alongs online, you'll know that we always have a grand prize draw sponsored by Muskoka Yarn Connection, and sometimes our yarn suppliers help out. I'll show our grand prize next week or the week after. I haven't wrapped it up and finished all the pretty ribbons yet. So everybody who is participating in the knit-along and has bought their yarn choices from the store has an entry ballot in our ballot box. And each week what we do is have an incentive ballot draw. So that's a randomly picked winner who posts the correct answer in the comments, and they get a second ballot into the draw box. So you can see each week you can add multiple ballots if you answer correctly. So what I'll do is I'll read the question and take your time, and if you feel like guessing at the answer or you feel you know the answer, please post it in the comments, and then I go through the video after, answer any of the comments, and I'll just pick a random winner. So today's incentive ballot question: how many dragonflies can you count in my spring arbor? So we're just talking about the dragonflies that you see on the screen. We're not talking about dragonfly on the pattern or on the mittens. So take some time, see if you can magnify your screen a bit and count the dragonflies. There's definitely more than one. And then I will post the randomly picked winner a bit later. Oh, thanks, Debbie. I worked very hard making these decorations for all of about 10 or 15 minutes this morning. It always cheers me up when I see spring flowers. These are actually real flowers, calico, and these are not, of course. Okay, so I'm looking forward to seeing all your progress pics. All you have to do is click on the event page, post them in a comment, take a picture, of course, and I hope you get lots of knitting done this weekend. Oh, yes, Diane, sorry. Oh, the answers are coming in quick. People are very good at counting dragonflies. Yes, Diane, so let's make the goal for the week to be liner cuff. If you choose to do the liner cuff, it's not essential. And the stranded cuff and maybe up to the top of the Latvian braid. If you have any questions or need a little bit more technical help doing the Latvian braid after you've watched the video is very good, by the way, then just send me a message or post in the comments and I can talk you through whatever section you're stuck at. I guess I should also mention too the stranding part, because you get right into the stranding in the cuff. So when you're following any chart that is asking you to do ferrule or stranding work, you'll find that some sections you're going over more than 3 stitches. So you're carrying your contrast color or your main color over more than 3 stitches. So my rule of thumb that I've followed for many years is I always knit in the floats if it's more than 3 stitches. So in this pattern so far, the cuff has had 5 stitches in between at the most. So I was knitting in the floats every 3rd stitch. That keeps it nice and neat on the reverse. And when you're putting your fingers through to put your mittens on, if you're wearing jewelry or not, you will not catch. I'm going to bring this over to show you the inside. Yes, you don't want to have long floats for a pair of mittens because you don't want to catch. So you can see the longest floats here are 3 stitches over. I'll post a picture in the event page showing you the inside as well as a close-up of the outside. And again, there should be a little bit of stretch factor when you're doing the carrying over of the yarn. Be sure that your stitches can stretch a little bit apart or you're going to get a very puckered effect. I think with the yarns that you're working with, the good quality Riverside Studio and the Malabrigo, you'll have enough stretch. You're not going to have a problem with the puckering. That would be more for a wool acrylic blend. But I would say within 10 rounds or so of the cuff, you'll really get into your rhythm. You'll find the tension that works best for you and the stranding method that works best for you. Now on the chart too, Sarah has made a note that round 1 and 2, that's not ferrule knitting. That's actually the Latvian braid section. And then the top 2 rows of her cuff, which would be row 18, 19, are the Latvian braid. So that would be a good goal for the week, everybody. Just to finish the cuff, whether you do the inside liner and the stranded cuff or just the stranded cuff. And then we'll see what happens next week. Next week we'll probably get into the main pattern, setting up our extra markers, There is an increase round coming up because generally after a cuff you have to increase a bit to get the right number of stitches for across the hand and the palm. And you'll love the thumb. The thumb is quite magical the way it's done. I think everything on this pattern is quite magical. So thank you, Sarah, if you're watching, for designing such a fun, creative pattern. The other thing I want to mention is that Sarah is now working on a matching hat pattern, the Dancing Dragonflies hat, and she's had requests for socks, a cowl, and I suggested to her maybe wrist warmers. So you might be seeing the whole collection of Dancing Dragonflies coming out in the next few months. For every design she does, she has to spend time having it tested and edited, so it's not a quick process, but she's on to a really good thing. So thank you everybody for watching, and I will be back next Friday at 3 p.m. and I look forward to seeing your pictures on the event page.